The moment the new Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 12 trailer dropped, one name immediately changed the entire conversation. Arionne Curry. For years, viewers have heard her name connected to one of the biggest storylines in the show's history. But there has always been one major difference between talking about Arionne and actually seeing Arionne on the show. She wasn't sitting on the couch. She wasn't walking into cast events. She wasn't confronting anyone on camera. She was largely a name attached to a very complicated chapter in Martell Holt's past. Now, according to the Season 12 trailer, that is changing. And if the trailer is any indication, Arionne isn't simply being brought into the background of Martell's story. Her arrival could force several relationships, friendships, and old questions right back into the spotlight. And then there's Destiny Payton. Because just when viewers thought that particular conversation had already been exhausted, the trailer appears to reopen questions about Destiny's longtime friendship with Martell and whether viewers have ever been given the complete picture. But here's where things get especially interesting. The season isn't only about Arianne and Martell. LaTisha and Marsau are facing another major life transition. Maurice and Kimmi are dealing with concerns surrounding their son, Monster. Chris and Nell Fletcher are entering a deeply personal family chapter. So, is Arianne really the story of Season 12? Or is her arrival simply the spark that's going to expose everything else happening within this cast? Let's get into it. Love and Marriage. Huntsville is returning with another season, and this time the cast dynamics look noticeably different. The series has spent years building storylines around friendships, marriages, business relationships, breakups, betrayals, and the complicated history connecting many of these people. Season 11 itself ended with plenty of unresolved tension. The reunion brought cast members back together to discuss relationship problems, fractured friendships, and some very uncomfortable questions. But Season 12 appears ready to take several of those unresolved conversations and push them even further. The biggest headline is obviously Arionne Curry. Her presence changes the situation because viewers aren't simply hearing other people talk about her anymore. The trailer puts her directly into the world of Love and Marriage Huntsville. That alone is enough to create conversation. Because when someone has been connected to a controversial chapter for years, finally bringing that person into the actual cast environment changes the dynamic completely. Now there are conversations that can happen face to face. There are reactions that don't have to be explained through somebody else's version of events. And there are relationships that could suddenly look very different when everybody involved is sitting in the same room. That's why Season 12 already feels like more than just another continuation. It feels like the show is opening a chapter that viewers have been debating for years. To understand why this is such a major development, you have to understand how deeply Arionne's name has been connected to Martell Holt's history. Martell's personal life has been one of the show's longest-running sources of discussion. His relationship with Melody, their eventual separation, and the fallout surrounding that entire period became central to the show's identity. And throughout that larger story, Arionne's name remained part of the conversation. But viewers experienced that story mostly through other people's perspectives. That distinction matters. There's a huge difference between hearing someone discuss a person and actually allowing that person to speak within the environment where the story is unfolding. That's why the Season 12 trailer has created such a strong reaction online. Some viewers immediately questioned why the show was bringing Arianne into the cast now. Others said they were finally interested because they wanted to hear her perspective directly. And some fans are already predicting that her presence could create tension with multiple people, not just Martell. That's important because Arianne doesn't enter an empty room. She enters a cast with years of history. There are friendships that have already fractured. There are people who have taken different sides. There are relationships that have changed because of events connected to Martell. And there are viewers who already have very strong opinions before the season has even started. That's a difficult position for anyone entering reality television, because the audience doesn't meet you with a blank slate. They meet you with years of context. And that's exactly why Arianne's entrance could be so explosive. But then the trailer adds another layer. Destiny Payton. Destiny has already spent years dealing with questions about her friendships, dating life, and connections within the Huntsville circle. Her relationships with other cast members have also shifted considerably over time. In Season 11, viewers watched tension develop between Destiny and LaTisha, while Destiny's personal life remained a major part of her storyline. Now Season 12 appears ready to bring another complicated connection into that conversation, and that's where the trailer gets messy. One of the biggest questions coming out of the trailer isn't simply, what is going to happen between Martell and Arianne? It's, what exactly was going on around Destiny? The trailer appears to reignite speculation about Martell and Destiny's longtime friendship. And let's be clear here. Speculation is not proof. A trailer can tease a question without answering it. A look, a conversation, or a confrontation doesn't automatically establish what happened behind the scenes. But reality television works by creating those questions, and Season 12 appears to know exactly which questions viewers are still asking. The trailer reportedly places Destiny and Arianne in a tense confrontation, with Destiny defending her son. That moment alone is significant, because now this isn't simply a discussion about two women who happen to know the same man. There appears to be a personal issue underneath the confrontation, and once children or family enter a disagreement, emotions naturally become much higher. That's something viewers are going to be watching very closely. What exactly caused that confrontation? What did Arianne say? What did Destiny believe needed defending? And most importantly, does the actual season provide context that the trailer intentionally leaves out? Because trailers are designed to make viewers curious. They show the explosion. They don't always show what happened 5 minutes before it. And that distinction could be very important here. There's another detail from the new cast imagery that has also caught attention. Martell appears holding a rose. Now, does that automatically mean romance? No. A promotional image is not evidence of a relationship, but fans are naturally going to analyze symbolism when a show has spent so much time building storylines around Martell's romantic life. And when you combine the rose with Arianne's arrival, suddenly viewers have another question. What exactly is Martell's romantic storyline going to look like this season? Is he looking backward? Is he moving forward? Or is the show simply using familiar imagery to tease a storyline that has nothing to do with what fans are assuming? That's what viewers will have to watch to find out. And honestly, that's probably exactly what the producers want. Here's something that could get lost in all the Arianne conversation. There are actually several other major storylines happening at the same time. LaTisha and Marsau Scott are approaching their 20-year wedding anniversary. 20 years is a major milestone, but instead of simply celebrating, the couple is reportedly dealing with the loss of their first residential investment property. And that creates an interesting contrast. On one hand, they're reaching a personal milestone that represents 2 decades together. On the other hand, they're dealing with a professional setback. That's the kind of storyline that can give viewers something different from relationship drama. Because marriage isn't only about romance. It's also about money, business, family, stress, and how two people respond when something they worked toward doesn't go according to plan. Then there is Maurice and Kimmi. Their storyline appears to focus partly on their son Monster and concerns surrounding his future following what the trailer portrays as a significant college-related setback. Again, this is a different type of family pressure. Parents eventually have to watch their children make decisions, face consequences, and figure out what comes next. And when you're doing that while cameras are rolling, those private family concerns become public conversations. That's not necessarily easy. Then there's Chris and Nell Fletcher. Nell is entering a completely different chapter as she becomes a full-time caregiver for her aging father. That storyline could bring a much more emotional dimension to the season. Caregiving can change an entire family dynamic. It can affect time, priorities, relationships, responsibilities, and even the way people see their own future. So while social media may focus heavily on Arionne and Martell, the season itself appears to have several layers. That's important because Love and Marriage, Huntsville, has always been about more than one relationship. It's about a network of people whose lives overlap. When one person changes position inside that network, everybody can feel it. And Arianne stepping into that network could create exactly that kind of ripple effect. The early online reaction has already shown that viewers are divided. Some fans are fascinated. Others are frustrated. And some are questioning whether bringing Arianne onto the show is the right decision at all. That's not surprising. Reality television audiences develop strong emotional connections to long-running storylines. When a person associated with one of the show's most controversial chapters suddenly becomes part of the cast, people are naturally going to have opinions. Some viewers want answers. They want to hear directly from Arianne. They want to know what her experience was. They want to see how she interacts with the people who have discussed her over the years. Other viewers feel like the storyline has been revisited too many times already. And that creates the biggest challenge for Season 12. Can the show make this feel like a new chapter, rather than simply reopening an old argument? That's the real question. Because bringing somebody onto the show isn't automatically enough to create compelling television. There has to be growth. There has to be new information. There has to be a reason the audience should care about what happens next. And if the entire season simply becomes another cycle of old accusations and old arguments, some viewers may eventually tune out. But if Arianne's arrival introduces new perspectives, new relationships, and new developments, then the storyline could become something very different. That's why the actual episodes matter more than the trailer. The trailer creates the question. The season has to provide the answer. The real story may not simply be about Arionne Curry finally appearing on Love and Marriage, Huntsville. It may be about what happens when a person who has existed around the edges of a reality TV storyline finally steps into the center of it. For years, viewers have formed opinions based on what they saw, what they heard, and what different people said publicly. Now the dynamic is changing. Arionne has an opportunity to present herself within the show. Martell has to respond to that presence. Destiny has to navigate whatever tension comes from it. And the rest of the cast has to decide how involved they want to become. That's where things could get unpredictable. Because reality television isn't just about what happened in the past. It's about what happens when those people are forced to sit together in the present. And Season 12 appears to be creating exactly that environment. The most interesting question isn't whether Arionne can create drama. Clearly, the trailer has already created conversation. The bigger question is whether her arrival will actually move the story forward. Will viewers finally get a different perspective? Will old friendships be tested? Will Martell's storyline change? Will Destiny's relationship with the cast become even more complicated? Or will all of this simply reopen arguments that viewers thought were already finished? Those answers are coming when the new season begins, so now the question is yours. What do you think about Arionne Curry officially stepping into the Love and Marriage Huntsville cast? Do you think the show is finally giving viewers the perspective they've been waiting for? Or do you think this storyline has been revisited too many times? And what about Destiny? Do you think Season 12 is going to finally answer some of the questions surrounding her relationship with Martell? Or is the trailer simply teasing viewers with another layer of speculation? One thing is already clear. The conversation has started before the first episode even airs. And if this trailer is any indication, Season 12 could be one of the most talked about chapters yet. This is celebrity creativity, and I want to hear your take. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you want more Love and Marriage, Huntsville updates, and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Because once Season 12 officially gets going, we're going to have a lot more to talk about.